Hertfordshire police constable sacked for kicking a man in the head. Keir Starmer under investigation for knocking a cyclist off his bike. And a former Kent sex pest and his misconduct hearing. And police already trialling a live stream service to save them from having to attend incidents and give them more time to eat donuts. This and more coming up. Thank you to those who have sent me links to some of today's stories. And as for the rest of you, please remember to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you appreciate the work I do, please consider joining the channel Patreon for as little as just £3 a month, which will enable me to continue providing this content. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies, and in betweeners. My name's Dan and welcome back to another PAP Reports. It's Tuesday, the 27th of October, 2020. Darren Grimes, who was probed after David Starkey said some controversial things on one of Darren's YouTube videos, has filed a formal complaint along with historian David Starkey against the Metropolitan Police after Scotland Yard's handling of the investigation. The pair are seeking an apology from the Metropolitan Police for causing significant distress and exposing them to the most serious risk of reputational damage as they investigated the pair for allegedly stirring up racial hatred. Something that's okay for the boys in blue to do, but will drop you like a ton of shit if you do it. You know, because equality is the Met's mantra. The probe into Grimes was dropped by the Met last week over the incident that saw David Starkey claim that slavery was not genocide, otherwise there wouldn't be so many damn blacks in Africa or in Britain. The pair apologised for the ill-judged remarks while Dr Starkey resigned from his fellowship with Cambridge University and lost a book deal with HarperCollins. Scotland Yard's subsequent decision to then investigate them under the Public Order Act was criticised by politicians, including Home Secretary Priti Patel, ex-Tory Chancellor Sajid Javid and former Lib Dem leader Tim Farron. In the complaint being made, Grimes and Dr Starkey, through their lawyer Luke Gittos, are seeking an apology. They also claim that senior officers in the force made significant operational decisions on the basis of media commentary and social media posting, adding that the Met's investigation of Dr Starkey's remarks, which were made in June, were primarily compelled by deference to Black Lives Matter, an organisation, the letter claims, which had overtly engaged in criminal conduct. Even Lord MacDonald, a former Director of Public Prosecutions, slammed the sinister and foolish decision of the police to investigate the pair, calling it a political stunt. Metropolitan Police's investigation into Grimes was met with huge public support. And as I've said before, numbers make a big difference, even more so against spurious police claims and charges. Darren Grimes and Dr Starkey have also complained about the conduct of DC Imtiaz Shah, who the letter says invited them to a police interview in October. Toby Young, General Secretary of the Free Speech Union, said the use of the Public Order Act to regulate speech and debate had a chilling effect on free speech. He said it is not the police's job to investigate thought crimes, adding the Metropolitan Police made a serious mistake in deciding to investigate Dr David Starkey and Darren Grimes and should apologise. In the formal complaint, their lawyer suggests that as a matter of law, Dr Starkey's use of the term damn blacks is not inherently threatening, abusive or insulting, pointing to case law which says that an offence under Section 22 of the Public Order Act requires that a person intend to stir up racial hatred. The complaint states those words are clearly capable of being offensive, upsetting and were certainly liable and did cause offence to large numbers of people. However, it is plain on the review of the footage that Dr Starkey used the term damn in a way that emphasised the number of people who survived their experience of slavery. It is quite clear that he was not expressing resentment to any individual in the present for surviving slavery. The complaint goes on, it is not understood that the balance of the interview was considered relevant to this inquiry. Seeking Mr Grimes and Dr Starkey for interview caused significant distress on behalf of both parties. It exposed them to the most serious risk of reputational damage. We are deeply concerned that senior officers in the Metropolitan Police Force appear to be making significant operational decisions on the basis of media commentary and social media posting. We do not know whether DC Shah was solely responsible for drafting this email or whether he sought assistance from more senior officers. However, we say that DC Shah's email is prima facie evidence that his investigation was primarily compelled by deference to an organisation who had overtly engaged in criminal conduct, the BLM movement. Well, Grimes and Starkey seem to have chosen a great time to ask for an apology, as it seems the Met are all for saying sorry these days. Well, to some people anyway. 43-year-old Devon and Cornwall Police Constable PC Christopher Wilson is due to appear at Exeter Magistrates Court on October the 28th on charges of misconduct in public office. Now, I've not been able to get any further information on the details of the misconduct, but it is over an alleged incident that is said to have taken place in Launceston in December 2018. Wilson is currently on suspension, and if I have pronounced that place name wrong, sue me. PC Warren Potter from Hertfordshire Police has been sacked after a misconduct hearing found that his arrest of a man, known only as Mr JB, was deemed totally unnecessary, disproportionate and unacceptable. The panel was told that on January 13th, Potter was on duty in uniform and driving a marked vehicle when he was asked to provide assistance to colleagues who had detained a man. Upon arrival, Mr JB was already detained by 4 police constables and was on the ground in handcuffs. But Potter put his right foot on Mr JB's head for almost half a minute before then putting most of his weight on his right foot and using his left foot to boot Mr JB in the head. Mr JB is said to have received minimal physical harm, but the panel concluded it could have been significant. The panel explained that there were a number of aggravating features to the conduct as found. The explanation given by the officer as to why he had not subsequently completed a use of force form was not accepted. The panel found that both allegations were proved, and they engaged the 3 standards of professional behaviour as alleged. The panel determined that the totality of the conduct as found amounted to gross misconduct because it involved a gross misuse of force towards a vulnerable detainee and would impact directly on public confidence. Potter has been dismissed without notice, as it was judged appropriate given the actual or potential reputational harm and the need to maintain public confidence in the police as a profession. Evidence in the form of 5 body-worn cameras and 6 police officer witnesses at the scene was used in the hearing to judge the case. Mr Potter denied that his actions amounted to gross misconduct and maintained that he believed Mr JB to have contagious disease, which posed an immediate threat to colleagues, so the use of force was reasonable, proportionate and necessary in all circumstances. Contagious disease. Aren't you glad we have so many practicing psychologists and GPs within our police force? You know, people competent to make judgments like that, and who knows that the only way to defeat a contagious disease is to boot the person carrying it in the head. I've had an idea. PAP is now offering vaccinations from COVID-19. No more do you have to worry about injecting yourself with unknowns. No more do you have to worry about being on lockdown and your life being ruined. For just £20 British, I will kick the COVID out of you. What a business model. Duncan Bannatyne, Peter Jones, Theo, Deborah, I'll cut you in for 10%. What do you say? Call me. Dorset police are now believed to be the first police force to have paid lockdown-related compensation to a man who was manhandled unlawfully, preventing him from preaching from the back of his truck. 44-year-old Dominic Muir was filming himself preaching from the back of his truck when a police constable arrived and told him, well, I'll tell you what, I'll show you.
It's a privilege to be here. My name is Dominic, and I'm a local minister. I'm a religious key worker, you might say, and I'm travelling across this county proclaiming the gospel. As I was really getting started on unpacking the gospel, I noticed a policeman coming, striding towards me, and you know, I've been doing this a few years, and normally I can tell pretty quickly whether the policeman is just kind of on his daily beat, just walking, kind of, you know, looking out for people for criminals and stuff, or whether he's kind of after me, as it were.
Well, I don't have to move on. I've done this all over the county, I've done this all over the country.
I don't want this to start becoming an issue, because I'm going to need you to move on. I'm going to need you to produce some paperwork to say that you're entitled to do that here.
After a little bit of a kind of back and forth, a little bit of antagonism, but relatively peaceful, he said, okay, well, you can have a few minutes. And I think he gave me 3 minutes or something. Quite a lot before the time, actually, that he had allowed me to speak. He said, time's up. And as I was wrapping it up, he proceeded to mount my vehicle in a kind of
quite an aggressive way, really, as it basically to put a stop to it.
In this hour, and I'm finishing with this, we need to not fear man, we need to fear God. May God bless you. Have a great afternoon. Thanks so much.
Following the incident, Dominic sought help from the Christian Legal Centre, which assisted him with a pre-action letter to the Chief Constable of Dorset Police seeking compensation for the assault. In the letter, lawyers argued that Dominic's microphone was in his right hand when the officer had grabbed him, and therefore the intention must have been more than simply preventing him from preaching. Furthermore, lawyers argued that the officer's sole intention was to stop Dominic from exercising his legitimate right to free speech, which was not prohibited by the COVID regulations. In response, Dorset Police have now admitted that the officer acted unlawfully and have paid £1,250 in damages and costs. Responding to the settlement, Dominic said it was intimidating and humiliating to be confronted by the police in this way and treated as a potential criminal. I have no doubt that if I had continued to preach or sing, I would have been handcuffed, arrested and taken to the police station. For centuries, street preaching in the UK was an honoured profession that was respected and deemed essential to people's physical, emotional and spiritual well-being. To be shut down by the police like this represented a huge shift for me and shows the extent of society's secularisation. Andrea Williams, Chief Executive of the Christian Legal Centre, who assisted Dominic, said Christian ministry in church or on the street should never have been deemed as non-essential, nor as a problem which needed to go away during lockdown. This must never happen again. Dominic Muir had not broken lockdown restrictions. He was singing and preaching about the hope of Jesus Christ on the back of his truck at a time of great uncertainty and need for many. We welcome that Dorset Police have recognised that they acted unlawfully. We call for greater respect and understanding from the police to street preachers now and beyond the pandemic. And this is why you should always make a complaint if you feel your rights have been infringed on. Keir Starmer is being investigated by police after it's alleged that he was driving through northwest London around midday on Sunday when his vehicle collided with a cyclist in Kentish Town. A spokesman for Starmer said he reported the incident to the police station soon afterwards and has been in touch with the person involved. The cyclist was taken to hospital after the incident, although I do not know the extent of any injuries. Starmer was said to have been driving his own vehicle and is reported to not be injured himself. You know, actually, maybe he was just testing his eyesight after getting a bit of a tickly throat. The Metropolitan Police refused to confirm Starmer's involvement, of course, but said the driver was not arrested. The force said in a statement, police were alerted by a London Ambulance Service at around 12:20 hours on Sunday 25th of October to report of a road traffic collision between a cyclist and a car in Grafton Road, Northwest 5. The driver of the car had stopped at the scene and exchanged details with the cyclist, but had left before officers arrived. The male cyclist received a minor injury to his arm and was taken to hospital by LAS as a precaution. Officers later attempted to contact the driver of the car and left a message advising him to report the matter to police. The driver of the car subsequently attended a North London police station. He was not arrested or interviewed under caution. An investigation into the collision is ongoing by officers from the Roads and Transport Policing Command. 73-year-old terminally ill pensioner John Wilson suffered injuries on Monday after being knocked down by a Sussex police worker on a pavement on a bike. A video captured by local store CCTV caught the moment the incident happened. Mr. Wilson, who is battling prostate cancer, said he was lucky to be alive and that he wanted the cyclist to apologise. And I'll tell you what, I'd be asking for far more than an apology, seeing as he shouldn't have even been riding on a pavement in the first place. In fact, under Section 72 of the Highways Act 1835, cyclists must not travel on pavements and could face fines of between £30 and £500. Mr. Wilson said, I stepped out onto the wide pavement and didn't see the bike. I was whacked straight in the face. I hit the ground. I am very annoyed at watching the video as I am a human being with a terminal illness and I think he thought of me like a piece of dirt. Now, to be fair, he clearly is not going to know about a terminal illness that somebody has. But he most certainly shouldn't have been riding on the pavement, as I say. He continued, it's his attitude. I hit the floor and he did not ring an ambulance. A neighbour had to ring an ambulance. The cyclist refused to give his full name, stating because he worked for Sussex Police. Like that means anything. The pensioner was taken to hospital with facial injuries and his iPhone was broken beyond repair. Sussex Police have confirmed the cyclist does work for the force. A Sussex Police spokeswoman said the cyclist, who is a member of staff based at Brighton and was off duty, says he gave his name at the time. The incident has been referred to the Professional Standards Department to investigate any road traffic offences committed and whether there is a need for any disciplinary procedures. Well, there is. Section 72 of the Highways Act 1835, cyclists must not travel on pavements and could face fines of between £30 and £500. So I would suggest you stop wasting time trying to think up excuses and deal with it. I've got to say, I think the way the cyclist handled this is disgusting. I cannot imagine any normal person simply standing there and not giving a toss about an elderly victim laying on the floor. A victim who's a victim because of their actions. Now, the irony of this next story made me laugh, considering the amount of sex pests we report on who actually work for the police. Thames Valley Police has won an international award for its work on targeting sexual predators at Oxford nightclubs. Project Vigilant, which launched in June 2009. What? Thames Valley Police has won an international award for its work on targeting sexual predators at Oxford nightclubs. Project Vigilant, which launched in June 2019, won the Crime Prevention Award from the International Association of Chiefs of Police on October the 23rd. Undercover police officers and some in uniform patrolled the streets and went into nightclubs to hunt for sexual harassment, inappropriate touching and loitering. Loitering in a nightclub. The project has also received support from the National Crime Agency and is being shared as an example of best practice with other forces. On getting the award, Chief Inspector James Senior said the project has been instrumental in determining just how we should go about assaulting women without getting caught ourselves, learning new tricks from others and learning the excuses used in order to get away with it. My apologies, that's not what they said. I really should have read the quote rather than assumed the police would be honest. What they actually said was, this project has been instrumental in safeguarding the public and creating a hostile environment for perpetrators wanting to commit sexual offences in Oxford. Former Kent Police Constable PC James Empert faced a misconduct hearing yesterday. Well, he didn't exactly face it, as the bottled out and resigned prior to the hearing and failed to show up. The misconduct hearing was held to decide whether PC Empert had committed gross misconduct by breaching the standards of professional behaviour after it was alleged that he used Kent Police premises as a base to conduct sexual encounters and affairs and tried to persuade a student officer he was having an affair with, as well as another student officer who knew of the relationship, to mislead and lie in an investigation into his behaviour. Married Empert also attempted to pursue a relationship with another colleague, but was turned down. During a first interview in April, PC Empert said he was aware of a colleague's feelings towards him but denied anything sexual. In December, he was asked again the same question and also questioned on his use of Kent Police premises for sex, to which he now responded no comment. PC Empert was aware of the hearing but did not want to take part in the proceedings. Summing up, Mr Chidley, chairing the hearing, said PC Empert's actions demonstrated a clear disregard for the welfare of pupils under his care and raises serious questions about his honesty, integrity and objectivity. The panel will announce its ruling today. Not that it makes any difference now, as Empert has already resigned. A mosque in Luton. Ooh, wait for the your Islamophobic comments to start now I've mentioned the word mosque. A mosque in Luton had a police visit in order to break up a disturbance, as some 250 to 300 people got into a row after an internal dispute within the mosque committee members. Mosque Secretary Saidul Islam Khan said he was unexpectedly removed from his position by other members of the committee. He returned to the mosque on Friday, but claimed other members of the committee objected to his presence and called the police. One member of the public said, as a resident living in Luton, we all have to play our part during COVID-19. The views from the community are that the mosque knew in advance that there was going to be a disruption and police were also informed in advance. So, how come this was allowed to happen? Doesn't this make Luton a great example of bad practice to others? Well, it was allowed to happen because in some areas the police are very forgiving towards certain communities and look the other way for fear of being called discriminatory. Surely everyone knows this by now. Bedfordshire Police said in a statement, Bedfordshire Police was called to reports of a disturbance at Jalalabad Jame Masjid on Lee Grove Road in Luton shortly after 1:30 on Friday the 23rd of October, where an altercation was in progress. Officers attended the scene and spoke to those present. No offences were reported, not even COVID-related ones. Officers engaged with those at the location regarding COVID-19 guidelines and reminded them of the importance of following the guidance. The Force's Community Cohesion Team, along with representation from Luton Council, are said to continue to work this week with mosque leaders and committee to ensure guidance is adhered to. Luton is currently in Tier 1, meaning there are no restrictions as such. However, Luton Council is applying to enter Tier 2 restrictions. Of course they are. Of course they're applying to enter a higher tier. Don't they get more money from the government based on the lockdown level? An investigation has been launched following another police crash, this time between two Devon and Cornwall police vehicles on the A30 on the evening of the 25th of October. A police car and a police van collided while the police van was on an emergency call. A spokesperson for Devon and Cornwall Police said that the drivers of the van and car, both police officers, suffered minor injuries, while a passenger in the car, also a police officer, was uninjured. Following the collision, further police officers were sent to the scene between the Shiverton's Cross and Carland Cross roundabouts, along with the ambulance service. And of course, other officers were sent to the scene. You cannot have a police vehicle collision without at least 30 other plod on scene. A Force spokesperson added an investigation is being carried out into the circumstances of the collision. I'll let you know what those circumstances turn out to be. Police, who are constantly banging on about COVID rules and how they will not hesitate to enforce them, blah, 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 have failed to enforce them at a funeral after some, allegedly 200 travellers turned up to pay their respects at Blacken Cemetery, just yards from Chester Police Station. Or who knows, maybe they timed it to coincide with the police's donut break. Chester is currently in Tier 2 lockdown, meaning that only 30 people can attend a funeral. However, a witness had said there were about 200 people there in total, but the police didn't want to know. There were a few officers watching, but they made no effort to enforce the guidelines. It's a kick in the teeth for those of us who have followed the rules and missed burying loved ones. To have this happen quite literally under the noses of the police force is disgraceful. No one can blame them for wanting to give a loved one a proper send-off. The issue is the complete lack of consistency by the police and the complete lack of backbone by many people. Just because you was told you shouldn't go and say goodbye to your loved one, what sort of idiot doesn't? And you see, just like the Luton story, there are certain communities that the police actively turn a blind eye to for fears of discrimination. And travellers are one such community. Other witnesses said that there were 4 police at the cemetery gates but did nothing. However, Chief Inspector Gareth Wrigley of Cheshire Police said no officers were present and we were not called to any breaches at the service. Currently, there is no more information, but if there is a breakout of COVID in the traveller community or if Cheshire Police grow a backbone, I'll be sure to break the news right here on the channel. Now, we've been speaking recently about how some police forces want to have access to a live streaming platform that witnesses to crime can activate so that police in control rooms can watch it. I mean, I mentioned it in Monday's video, where critics of the idea branded it nonsense and feared it could actually put people in danger. With former Metropolitan Police Deputy Commissioner Sir Craig Mackay, a supposed expert in high-tech policing, who backs the plan, saying that most members of the public are now carrying phones capable of filming, and there is a move to 5G, which allows live streaming. And as I said, yes, because 4G would never allow the concepts such as live streaming, would it? Former Sussex Police murder detective Kevin Moore said he was amazed 3 forces are willing to take it on. He added, "I wonder about why we're asking people to do this. To me, there are too many potential moral issues here to ask members of the public to film crimes in action, and I'm struggling to see how an officer can respond to an incident and be watching live video at the same time. It could also put the public in danger, and we already have too many instances of the public taking videos of arrests and plastering them on social media. Boo-hoo. Will they now start putting videos of crimes taking place on there too? To me, it sounds like nonsense and another ludicrous harebrained scheme." Only last week, chiefs at 3 constabularies were still offering a multi-million-pound contract to any firm able to provide a workable system. However, now it seems that one force has already been using the technology in trials. Bedfordshire Police are using the new technology platform Good Sam Instant On Scene, which allows members of the public to stream live video and share their precise location with police control rooms through a mobile device, apparently without needing an app. But let me explain something to you. When it says without needing an app, it means the police don't need an app to view it. You, of course, will need an app, and you, of course, will need to allow access to your device for the police to view the footage. Apparently, it's been said that the Good Sam Instant On Scene app has been credited with saving a number of lives and on hundreds of hours of officers' time during a trial period across Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire and Hertfordshire. A consultation feature allows officers to invite members of the public to a multi-way video call for use in situations where it might not be appropriate to visit in person. In other words, every time they need to speak to somebody, it will be done via a video chat because they're too fucking lazy to come and see you themselves. Good Sam has been used by the three forces control rooms on more than 3,000 occasions, it's been said, and is now in use across multiple areas of the organisations, including being used by more than 2,500 frontline police constables, PCSOs and SOCO officers. Inspector Chris Hutton from the Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire and Hertfordshire Police Digital Innovation Team said, "Our use of technology is about improving the service we can provide by not having to attend a scene of a crime and get the public to simply do your job for you. We can directly attribute it to locating and saving the lives of some particularly vulnerable individuals, some of whom had made significant attempts to harm themselves, and we've been able to use live video with 999 callers, such as during the aftermath of a stabbing. As someone who wants to take their life is not going to be live streaming to the police. So here's a question. How did you locate the vulnerable person? There's only two ways that I can think of that how you could have done that. One, illegally tracking their phone while they're not using it, i.e. not using the app if it's installed, or legally tracking the phone because the permissions people have agreed to give you unlimited and unconditional access to their device's location. Well, fuck that for a game of hide and seek. Callers are said to have to give consent to Good Sam, which together with strict risk assessments ensures that no one is ever placed at increased risk by sharing video footage, but seemingly at risk of being unlawfully or covertly tracked by the police anytime they like. Professor Mark Wilson, OBE of Good Sam, said the Good Sam system is all about saving lives with technology. Additionally, by improving resources efficiently, it means that specialist resources can be deployed where they are needed. Mr. Ali Gorbangali, OBE of Good Sam, adds, "We passionately believe we can use the technology to radically improve policing and care for the public." Well, sod that. Now, how about I set up a GoFundMe and get the police accountability project set up that way? A system that won't give your location away without your consent and will allow you to stream to a cloud to save the footage so it doesn't get lost or corrupted. Okay, and can be used to protect the public from the police rather than the other way round. What do you think? Apparently, the Met Police is listening and learning on race-related issues. Last Friday morning, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Cressida Dick, travelled to Croydon to speak with a group of community-influenced social entrepreneurs and young people who have been working since the death of George Floyd in the US to build bridges between black communities and the police. She was said to have not once denied the mistakes the Metropolitan Police have made. She listened to people's experiences of the police, asked for advice on how the progress that has been made can be stepped up, and challenged us to carry on being part of a long-term solution. She offered no platitudes or quick fixes. Instead, she promised to listen and learn from a conversation that is transforming policing in Croydon. Reports last week of a failure to investigate a violent racist assault in Queen's Park, northwest London last December, had yet again raised questions that cannot be dismissed on the grounds that police are overstretched due to cuts. The Metropolitan Police has now apologised over its handling of that incident, which the victim, Niad Farah, believes resulted from discrimination by police. She and two friends were insulted by a woman, then physically attacked by 7 white men who approached them from a van. Miss Farah, who has Somali heritage, described being dragged, punched repeatedly, kicked and racially abused. She said she thought she would die. Now the problem is, however, no one is learning anything. They're not. Discrimination is experienced by everyone. I'm discriminated against for being so incredibly handsome. However, discrimination is not solely suffered by those of certain ethnic groups, which it appears the Met seem to think it is. Discrimination will continue in all its forms until people stop categorising people and start treating everyone with the same level of respect. By bringing up the differences all the time, the differences are going to remain. So personally, I don't think the Met or many other people are learning a damn thing. Big thank you to all of the channel supporters, one and all, especially our channel Patreon supporters. Your support really does help. Thank you. And that is all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment, please subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other. Film the police and other officials. Good night, all. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video, there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.